mananahan din ako sa Kanya. At kung siya'y mamunga ng masagana, siya sa Ama'y nagbigay ng karangalan.
Ngayon kayo'y aking kaibigan, hinango sa dilim at kababahan. Ang kaibigan ay mag-aalay ng sarili ng buhay, walang higit sa yaring pag-aalay.
Kung paano mahal ko ng aking Ama, sa inyo'y aking ipinadarama. Sa pagkain ko kayo sana ay manahan, at tingin ko sa inyo ay
Ngayon kayo'y aking kaibigan, hinango sa dilim at kababahan.
ang sinumang sa aking mananahan.
So we would like to thank the people behind this video presentation. Let us give them a hand of applause. And now the moderator of the day that you have already seen and heard, Father Joseph Benetis of the Diocese of Marbel.
Thank you very much, Father Jivic. Your Excellency, Most Reverend Gabriel Giordano Cassia, Your Excellencies, Brother Priests, Sisters and Brothers in Christ, good morning. Maayong buntag. Magandang umaga po. Mayad nga aga sa inyong atanan. Maayong aga. Well, anyway, according to Father Nonoy, third day will be handled by the Mindanao group. And I belong to the Mindanao group, so I am your moderator of the day. So as introduced by Father Jivic, I am Father Joseph Benitez of the Diocese of Marbel. The Diocese of Marbel comprises the provinces of Sarangani Province, South Cotabato, some parts of Sultan Kudarat, and then the two cities of General Santos and Coronadal City. So that's the background of Diocese of Marbel. And then let us revisit the main theme of this national gathering of Vicars for the Clergy. The main theme is what is it? Ministering to the ministers as servant leaders in communion for the new evangelization. But before going further into that main theme, let us be reminded of our schedule today. So as usual, we have the keynote to be given by our resource speaker. Then after the keynote, we have, shall we say, short open forum. Then maybe a working merienda. And then exactly at 11 o'clock in the morning, we have our facilitated conversations. And also this afternoon, our schedule will be at 1:30. Just look at your ID. At 1:30 will be our concurrent workshops. Then after that, at 4:30, we will go back into this Aguila Hall for our evaluation. There will be siguro evaluation forms to be distributed to each one of us. Please answer all the questions asked for. Because I was reminded that no evaluation, no certificates daw. So after you have submitted the evaluation, please go back to the visiting room for the abasements. Then after that, go back again into this hall for our wrap-up activity at 5 o'clock in this afternoon. Then 5:30 will be our Mass. The main celebrant and preacher will be Most Reverend Wilfredo Manlapas of the Diocese of Tagum. Then after his final blessing, before we sing the recessional hymn, there will be, I do not know, there will be a music to be played. I do not know the title of the music. Then what we are going to do during the playing of the music, we will go around and maybe look for some of those participants here that we do not know. Just say hi or hello and then ask the name or the diocese where he belongs. Maybe you can ask also their cellular phone in order to implement that intimate sacramental fraternity. So that's it, no? Then at 7, we have our dinner, and then the socio-cultural program. So we will go back to the main theme of this gathering, which is ministering to the ministers as servant leaders in communion for the new evangelization. If you notice, on the first day of our gathering, the focus was on the need for renewal and ongoing formation. That we as servant leaders should be renewed. And then through this ongoing formation programs, offered to us. So in order for us to be renewed servant leaders. So the key word there is the word renewal. Then yesterday, the second day, the focus was on the importance of communion, no, and sacramental fraternity among us clergy. So although we are renewed servant leaders, but we need also the help, the friendship with our fellow priests. So we have to be in communion also with them. So the key word was the word communion. So the hashtag of the day was intimate sacramental fraternity. So that was yesterday. So today, we are already on the third day. The focus will be on some special concerns and possibilities for enhanced pastoral ministry in view of the new evangelization. Please correct me, Father, if I am wrong. So this will be the focus on our resource speaker. So without further ado, I will give the microphone now to our resource speaker, Father Noel Dislati. Let us give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Father Joseph. Last night, Bishop-elect Raul said that when he was called to the nunciature and meet the papal nuncio, it was a very scary experience. At the beginning. But I think it's more scary to give a talk in front of a papal nuncio. At the beginning, yes. Yes, that's true. Good morning, Your Excellencies. Good morning, my dear brother priests, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ. Today, this morning, we will be reflecting on the very important topic, which is special concerns and exploring possibilities that will enhance our pastoral ministry in view of new evangelization. Of the three topics that we reflected since day one up until now, for me, this is the most exciting because, it challenged me to really understand and have a good grasp of the state of affairs of the present state of affairs of the Episcopal Commission on Clergy and the special needs that we need to address. But it also engaged my imagination to explore future possibilities. And to tell you, my dear friends, when I brought the fruits of my imagination to prayer, I was filled of hope for the Church of the Philippines. And so we will explore special concerns and more possibilities. Okay? In doing that, I made two assumptions, and I hope I did right. First, I made an assumption that there is a correlation between ongoing formation and our effectiveness in new evangelization. What do I mean? That when priests are updated, that means that he has acquired or he continues to acquire updated knowledge in theology and related science, etc., and he has acquired up-to-date pastoral skills. Secondly, when a priest is renewed, that means he's more configured to the heart and to the mind of Christ. And when he is more self-giving because he is growing in his mission, in giving himself, in the spirit of pastoral charity, there is a correlation to effectiveness and faithfulness in terms of being an instrument, a sacrament to evangelization that is responsive to our times. Honestly speaking, I have not seen a scientific study of this correlation, so maybe some of you would like to pursue, a more scientific study and apply statistical norms if the correlation is really scientific. But if you study the documents of the church has always emphasized that our spirituality is always related to the fruitfulness of our mission, of our ministry. And we have been emphasizing that from day one until now, that the beneficiary, the end beneficiary of ongoing formation is the church. Because we are more self-giving. We grow in the spirit of charity. We are more pro-poor because we are living poor ourselves. So I don't want to further develop that because I think that assumption is very clear. That there is a clear correlation between ongoing formation and our effectiveness and faithfulness to the challenges of the new evangelization that is responsive to our times. Okay, that's the first assumption. The second assumption is that we are exploring possibilities. But when you explore possibilities, it's also important to set parameters. Because if you explore without parameters, it's very easy to go beyond the parameters of the Episcopal Commission on Clergy or the Commission on Clergy. Remember, we are gathered here as a Commission on Clergy. And we don't want to explore possibilities beyond our boundaries. That's why I checked the website of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines regarding its mandates to the Episcopal Commission on Clergy. And it has actually 3 mandates. When I was the Executive Secretary of the Episcopal Commission on Clergy, there were actually 8 mandates. But now they fused it into 3. The first one is about, of course, ongoing formation. The second is about attending to priests with special needs. And the third one is to attend to the needs of priests who are working and living outside the diocese. Okay? So that will be the parameters of our exploration. Okay. The first mandate. What is it? That the Commission shall promote the spiritual, intellectual, and pastoral formation of the clergy through ongoing formation programs, modules, in the diocesan and national levels, for the realization of which it shall endorse and assist in the establishment of the Commission on the Diocesan Clergy and the Presbyteral Council, or their equivalent in every particular church. The officers and members of these diocesan entities shall have their specific tenures for the continuity of respective work and services. Okay. It focuses on ongoing formation programs. In the national level, of course, we have to talk about issues like affordability. Okay? Many of you talk about that concern. In the first day, we were, I think, successful in dissociating ongoing formation to just simply interventions to priests with special needs. We know now that ongoing formation is more than just simply therapeutic programs. Okay? But not only in the national level, hopefully in the regional level and in the diocesan level. Of course, here, when we talk about ongoing formation programs, we need also to talk about formators for the ongoing formation of priests. Right now, we have formators for the initial formation in the seminary, but we have not yet talked about training formators for the ongoing formation of priests. Because when we talk about formators, we are talking about people who have the capacity to journey, to provide personalized accompaniment to priests. Of course, eventually we need to talk about specialists specialists in the field of theology and sciences that could advance our knowledge and skills. In this mandate, we need also to talk about structures and functions of the Commission on Clergy, its officers, and its members. So this is my personal take regarding this first mandate. The institutionalization of ongoing formation of the clergy. Somebody was talking about it and asked our people non-show if they have some thoughts about this. You know, the spirit of the ongoing formation of clergy is clear from 1965 up to the new ratio. We need to put some structures to support that spirit. And if ongoing formation is a right and a duty at the same time, we need to provide structures that would foment accountability on our part, that we avail this right and that we do this duty. Well, we need to have some basic plans for ongoing formation for the clergy in the national, regional, and diocesan levels. We have to map out maybe a more systematic structure, but definitely a more flexible one, because we cannot follow the structure of the seminary, because we cannot disrupt our priestly ministry, as well as a personal plan for ongoing formation. We know that this is the task of the bishops. I'm glad that there are bishops around, and I hope some of them will pick this up. What are some of the initial ideas? You know, I'm just simply sowing ideas for our facilitated conversation later on. One, the bishop has to put up a diocesan office or center and appoints a director to organize, ensure funding for, and communicate the resources of human, intellectual, pastoral, and spiritual formation, whether diocesan-based or drawn from other institutions. So, a center and appoints a director. Second, the bishop provides for the adequate staffing of an office for the ongoing formation of priests. Here comes the issue of competent staff, to accompany us in the ongoing formation of the clergy. Bishop functions as the guarantor of encouragement, time, and resources. Long-term planning in the training staff is needed. And I think it is at this point I would like to plug in the one-year training program of the ECLER. That this is a good venue where we are actually starting forming priests to minister to their fellow priests. This is a venue where we are forming formators for the ongoing formation of the clergy. I was having a conversation with Bishop Ben yesterday. He said that I think there are still 5 slots that are open. So please avail the slots. Now, if there's any one of you who is interested, please approach Bishop Ben or Monsignor Nonoy. Second, the bishop provides for the adequate staffing. The third is he supervises the director to establish linkages. Okay? Next, he appoints and oversees a committee of priests, perhaps the Commission on Clergy, or drawn from the Presbyteral Council and others, to regularly examine the content and process of the ongoing formation in its various dimensions. Okay? And third, and lastly, the bishop communicates the values, the purposes, and activities of the ongoing formation of priests to the people of God, perhaps using the mechanism of diocesan communication. Okay? I have here some samples of the content of the program for ongoing formation. Again, these are just simply samples to stimulate our discussion. For example, when you talk about human formation and the ongoing formation, we talk about maybe human cycle of life. We talk about gender differences and communication, a profile of the local and national population, sociology, from traditional to modern Filipino society. Remember that we are moving very fast to modernism and eventually to postmodernism. We have to be equipped, at least in knowledge and skills on how to deal with modernity and post-modernity. Understanding assumptions and beliefs of contemporary life, expressions of human experience in media, literature, art, drama, and films, science that shapes our life, etc., etc. Diversity and democracy in the Philippines, information technology, etc., etc. Of course, I based this content from the website of the U.S. Bishops' Conference, no? And then I contextualized it in the Philippine setting. When you talk about intellectual formation, for example, you talk about revelation, faith, and the relation to life, ecumenism, and interfaith dialogue in the Philippine context, etc., etc. In other words, these are very specific topics of concerns that are relevant to our society and to the challenges faced by the church in the Philippines. We have to be updated about this. We have to gain skills. Okay? And of course, the issue of specialists. Spiritual formation, like for example, spirituality in a specifically Catholic Christian context, spiritual resources and practices from tradition, especially for priests, spiritual classics as a resource for ministry and life, the spiritual life cycle of priests and others, the act of learning about spirituality for various traditions, etc., etc. In other words, there are really specific topics that we need to continue to be updated about. Okay, even in the field of spiritual formation. When you talk about pastoral formations, there's a lot. Okay? This is just few samples that we need to continue our pastoral formation in terms of content. A week ago, I was with the Salesians, no? And I had the chance to talk to Father Francis Gustillo. And he inspired me about the idea of doing a seminary consortiums. Right now, I think the Salesians Theological Seminary, the San Carlos Theological Seminary, and the Bulacan Theological Seminary are in consortium. And hopefully other seminaries would join the consortiums. I was very interested of that idea because my personal interest as a person in the ongoing formation for the clergy is that when we have a consortium, I think it would be easier to have a list and an easy exchange of specialists. We know that we have lots of resources and it would be easier to exchange resources. I still have to talk to Father Ayo, who is, I think, the Dean of the Theology Seminary, San Carlos Theology Seminary, about this. Now, we need also to talk about personal accountability of priests. If this is his duty and his right, then what are the things that we can ask from him? These are just simply samples. I'm not saying this is it. Okay? Like for example, they're talking about, in other Episcopal Conference, they're also already talking about, for example, 52 contact hours of education per year. In other words, 1 hour per week of education. Second, a 1 week of annual retreat. Daily prayer, especially the celebration of the Eucharist and the Liturgy of the Hours. The monthly celebration of the Sacrament of Reconciliation, perhaps in conjunction with spiritual direction. And then monthly contact with a priest group or its equivalent. And then, this is something I added, a month of renewal program every 5 years outside the diocese. Okay? I hope I'm stimulating your imagination and we can have a very fruitful, facilitated conversation. Now, what's the bishop's direct responsibility in all this? Again, this is a sample. He has to have a periodic conversation held either directly or through the bishop's delegate, perhaps the vicar for clergy, with each priest concerning his ongoing formation to provide for accountability and encouragement. Okay? So I dream of a day when our Episcopal Commission, Episcopal Vicars for Clergy are sitting with every priest and asking about what's going on with your ongoing formation. And then, second, and this is very interesting, a receipt of a regular report from those charged with the ongoing formation of priests regarding the state of soul of the presbyterate and any particular concerns. Of course, I'm giving more work to you, but I'm just excited to think about all this. And then, third, a regular contact points. A bishop must have a regular contact points in a monthly basis with the presbyterate at large. Maybe monthly meeting or recollections, or in an annual basis like retreats, Christmas, etc., which many of our bishops are already doing. Now, the model of the Diocesan Commission on Clergy, I hope this is already in place. I'm just simply reviewing some concepts here. Of course, the chairman is always the bishop. The chairman of the Commission on Clergy is always the bishop because it is his work. We are just simply sharing in the work of the bishop in caring for the priests. And then the Episcopal Vicar for Clergy. Somebody said that the better term, canonical term for vicar for clergy is really Episcopal Vicar for Clergy. If you'd like to ask about it, we'll talk about it in the conversation. Maybe we have some canon lawyers here that would elucidate to us regarding, accuracy of terms. Okay? Well, in my notes here, the Episcopal Vicar for Clergy has many functions, and I don't want to go through them individually. Just take note that you can actually download all this from the ECLER website. No? So here we have all the functions of the Episcopal Vicars for Clergy. If you still don't have the copy, please have one and review. Okay? Then, of course, it is also said here that he is directly in charge, the Episcopal Vicar for Clergy is directly in charge of the ongoing formation of the clergy, whose main responsibility are clergy retreat and recollection and gatherings, etc. Okay? In his commission, he has to have at least a treasurer and a secretary. Other duties, aside from these traditional activities of the diocese for clergy retreats, recollections, modular programs of formation, the Episcopal Vicar for Clergy is also tasked to creatively come up with a basic plan for ongoing formation for clergy. So it's interesting that in his commission, there must be someone who is in charge of the ongoing formation. It doesn't have to be him. Somebody must be in charge of the ongoing formation. Okay? The Episcopal Vicar for Clergy cannot work alone. I do not know if you are still alone in your commission. If you are alone in your commission, that is not a commission. Okay? You have to work as a team. Okay? Perhaps representatives of the vicar or the age bracket in the ministry like this. No? So, in this structure, you have the treasurer, the secretary, the representative of the young clergy, the junior clergy, the senior clergy, the middle clergy, and of course, the office of the ongoing formation, the director of the ongoing formation. Then, the special function and the role of the Episcopal Vicar for Clergy is to provide proper intervention for priests involved in any misconduct or scandal. That's why aside from ongoing formation, there must be an office for special needs. Okay, ongoing formation and special needs. The director of the special needs. Okay. Second mandate. Shall help the bishops in responding to the members of their clergy with special needs. It's very interesting that, again, even just studying these mandates, CBCP, the bishops, our bishops, are clear in really distinguishing ongoing formation from just simply responding to the needs of priests with special concerns. Okay? So, in responding to the members of their clergy with special needs, in attending to the tensions in the presbyterium, and in handling media coverage of issues about the life and or ministry of certain priests, preferably through the establishment of diocesan relation committee for this purpose. Okay? So here we're talking about structure of the commission of clergy in responding to crisis situations. Okay, I'll be talking more about that later on. The knowledge and skills in providing appropriate interventions when there are crisis situations. I'm wondering if you have already a structure that would respond to any crisis situation, and I'm wondering if your personnel have been trained to respond to crisis situations. In this mandate, we are also talking about skills of the vicars for clergy in detecting signs and symptoms of priests with special needs, so that we would be able to provide appropriate and proactive intervention. Someone was saying that prevention is better than cure. We need always to prevent proactively crisis situation. That's why you have to be empowered with skills in detecting signs and symptoms prior to the outbreak of crisis situations. Okay? Hopefully that would be addressed in the annual assembly of the Vicars for clergy. Now, when we talk about priests with special needs, who are they? When I talk about priests with special needs, I'm talking about those needs that would require therapeutic interventions. Okay? So that we would be able to detect and appropriately intervene for proper referral. So priests who are wavering in their vocations, vocational problems, priests who have done sexual misconduct, like priest fathers, priests who have acted out heterosexually or homosexually, priests who have acted with adults or with minors or vulnerable adults, or even sexually acted out with virtual persons in the internet. Okay? Addictions, those who are struggling with addictions, with alcohol, sex, internet addictions, gambling, food and shopping addictions, etc., you name it. Money problems, personality problems like anger or difficulty to live and work with, or mood problems like depression, anxiety, burnout. Are these mood problems situational, or are they part of the difficult transition process? Are they genetics? These are the things that we need ourselves to equip. Mental disorders. I just like to share two things. Number one, when I was the secretary of the Commission on Clergy, I had a chance to go to different dioceses, and I have one experience where they were angry at the priest, and even the bishop was angry at the priest because it seems that the priest was not obeying him. When they were narrating to me what the priest is doing, I realized that the priest is actually in a schizophrenic outbreak. So rather than a moral thing, it was actually a mental issue, mental disorder issue. So we have to bring the priest to Manila and have him see a psychiatrist and have him under medication. But it's interesting, it's Sister Lita Base, one of our good friend in Galilee Center. Yeah, maybe that's a crisis situation. We do not know. So that's another thing. Sometimes we mislabel problems because we are not trained to look at the signs and symptoms. Another thing, in my experience in Galilee Center, there are some mental disorders that usually are labeled as are seen from the moral point of view. For example, people who have bipolars, no? They swing from mania to depression. When they are in mania episode, they could go into binge drinking, even they could go into promiscuity, etc., etc. No? And you tell them, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. But if it's a mental problem, when they are in that situation, they cannot but. So we have to have the facility of diagnosing them accurately so that we can really intervene accurately. At least I have 2 cases where priests are suffering from bipolars. And when they are in mania, they are misbehaving. But when they are in medication, they are okay. Okay? Other special concerns, special moments in the life of priests. Every change requires a process of transitions. For example, I'm wondering if you are providing care and assistance to newly ordained priests, especially when they enter into their first pastorate. I'm wondering if you are paying attention to the transition of priests in midlife and priests who are in their senior years. I'm wondering if you are paying attention to the change or transfer of assignments. I think many of us are in the process of a major reshuffling. That's a source of anxiety to a lot of priests. I'm wondering if you are accompanying priests in that transition process. Sickness that disrupts active ministry. Lately, I was accompanying somebody who got sick. And because of his sickness, he thought that he is not able to go back to active ministry. And he was depressed. And he was suicidal. Simply because of the thought that he is sick and he can no longer go back to active ministry. Do we assist priests who are in that situation? Retirement. Of course, the financial and housing security, the sense of security, and the issue on sickness and death. Okay? The second other special concern is this, and I think this is something that is very important. A systematic insurance of the protection of women, minors, and the vulnerable adults. Okay? The mentally handicapped and the elderly. Dr. Gabi, who is the Asian representative to the Pontifical Commission on the protection of children and the vulnerable adults, was here. I do not know if he's still here. Dr. Gabi? He left already, no? So he left already. He is a person to contact. When I say systematic insurance, I hope that every diocese should invite that Pontifical Commission to educate you about the protection of women and children. I have very painful experiences with priests when they say, if I have known it, I could have not done it. So we need to educate our priests about this, because in this issue, we are talking not only about canonical offense, we are talking about a canonical crime, which is a delict. Okay? And that's why we have to take this seriously. We need also to work with the bishop regarding this, because this is their This is their work. I'm wondering if all of you has this. Okay? It is still called guidelines for dealing with cases of sexual abuse of minors perpetrated by members of the clergy. At the back, it is said here, these guidelines were unanimously approved by the CBCP during the plenary council, plenary assembly last July 6, 2013, and was confirmed by the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith on October 4, 2013. I was taught by Cardinal Rosales that when it is approved, when these guidelines, correct me if I'm wrong, Bishop Afable is here, no? When a guideline is approved by CDF, by the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, these guidelines becomes protocol. In other words, it becomes normative for the bishops to follow the procedures. And if they don't, they will have they could incur, what? How do you call it? They could be taken out from their post if they are not able to respond to cases of sexual abuse. Now, it's interesting because yesterday I was also talking to Gabi. He was talking to me about an apostolic letter as a loving mother. And he was telling me that it's not only about failure of the bishop to intervene when there are cases of sexual abuse of minors, but even failure or negligence in preventing it to happen. So, are there programs and measures that is being done to prevent cases of sexual abuse of minors? And if they don't do that, that could be a basis for ousting them from their post. So, please have a copy of the apostolic letter as a loving mother. Okay? This is something that is very important. When I was again in the executive secretary, we tried to do this in a systematic way. We made a seminar on it and then asked the bishop to make it normative for all dioceses. Unfortunately, we've learned that CBCP is structured in such a way that every bishop is autonomous. No? And therefore, we cannot impose any practice, like this, a good practice, to every diocese. So it really didn't pick up because no one was picking up the seriousness of this. No? I hope we can talk about that. Now, so have these documents with you, and then also have a crisis management team in the Commission on Clergy. Okay? I do not know how many of us have this in place in our dioceses. Can we just simply make a quick survey by raising hands, no? Kung sino ang meron na. Can we see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow. So you just simply see our inadequacy in responding to crisis situations. Again, in the slides, we will define the roles and functions of each one here. But in this model, again, this is just a model. You can revise it according to your needs and concerns. We have the canonical forum and we have the internal forum. How do we understand the canonical forum? It refers to the administrative and judicial procedures observed by the church laws. So, who are in the canon forum? The vicars for clergy or the diocesan representative, the communication officer, the secretary, and the consultants, the lawyers, and the medical doctors. The internal forum is in the realm of conscience and spiritual life. Okay? So here in the internal forum, we have the first counselor and then we have the second counselor. Somebody has to take care of the alleged victim. Somebody has to take care of the alleged victimizer. Okay? We know now that priests, when accused, are vulnerable to harming themselves. So we have to take care that they don't harm themselves. Okay? That's why there are two counselors, in this model. But both fora must observe appropriate confidentiality. Whether you are in the canonical forum or the internal forum, both must observe confidentiality in dealing with a crisis situation. Okay? So I will not go anymore to the roles and functions. It's here in my notes. Please read it. Somebody made a very good analogy regarding crisis management team. He was saying, parang fire extinguisher. Ang bahay mo hindi naman nasusunog every day, but it's just there. And whenever you need it, you have something to use to prevent the fire. So I think it's very important that it's part and parcel sa structure natin. Finally, the third mandate. Shall collaborate with the office of the guest priests or its equivalent, especially in the Archdiocese of Manila and in the United States. I put question mark here because I was saying, why only in the Archdiocese of Manila and the United States? There are many priests who are in other dioceses and other countries. So I think we need to expand the places here for the purpose of responding better to their concerns and problems, particularly in conjunction with the meaning and implication of spending their priestly life and in exercising their priestly ministry outside of their dioceses. Here we are talking about what? The welfare of priests working and living outside the diocese. So so we need to talk about issues on their ministerial status. How are they? Are they guest priests? Are they treated well? How is their living condition? How is their canonical status? Do they need canonical assistance? If we need to reach out to them, who pays the travel expenses? Things like that. The Episcopal Vicars for Clergy seems to me, based on this third mandate, is almost like a human resource department of the diocese. If you are familiar with the human resource department in some organizations, like in schools, it seems to me, I may be wrong, that in this case, the Episcopal Vicars for Clergy is functioning as the human resource department of the diocese. Okay? Now, based on the three mandates, what seem to be our conceptualization of the structure of the Diocesan Commission on Clergy? Okay? There must be at least three offices. The Office on Ongoing Formation, the Office on Priests living outside the diocese, and an Office on Priests with special needs. And under them are subcommittees. I don't care if you add some more offices, if you ramify it according to your needs and concerns, but at least you have to have at least this office to be faithful to the mandates of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines. With this, I'm ready for questions. Thank you. Sige.
So, Father Noel is ready for some questions coming from the group. Sige, Father, kindly introduce your name and your diocese.
Father Ramon Torres from Prelature of Marawi. So listening to all of this, since the day 1 up to now, day 3, and also with the nuncio and the bishops, and our sharing, I feel deep in me that this is intensive care. So intensive care talaga ito ba? So before I went into Marawi Prelature, I am a chaplain of the hospital. Then one time I had visited a patient in the ICU. Yes. So we know intensive care unit. So after that, taking care of the patient, then he told me, Father, I changed my prayer. Then I asked, what is your prayer? He told me, my prayer is, in this ICU, I see you, O Lord. That's very beautiful, no?
Okay, hugot lines.
So I look at this one. So I don't have questions, but I am just asking if we can invite you, in the Prelature of Marawi, for example, for retreats or seminars, because I look at this one as really a big help, because that is something to do with intensive care of our priesthood, and also of our Christian communities ba?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, we have the Episcopal Commission on Clergy, and they are now more equipped, they have more personnel to respond to your needs. So please don't hesitate to approach Monsignor Nonoy and his group, for your needs like this. Well, right now I'm back to my diocese for good. It depends on my bishop. If my bishop says, okay, you go, then I'll go. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, next question. Kindly raise your hands. Okay, Father.
Father
Sige,
Ben.
Father Ben.
Father Ben from the Diocese of Cotabato. Well, we all know that the absolute authority in all these undertakings is our bishop, the local ordinary, and he has the command and even decision of whom will he instruct, like interventions on some problems. Like he will just call the Vicar General and say, go to that person, talk to him. The Vicar for Clergy did not know about it. And sometimes the Vicar for Clergy, since I have more contact with my fellow priest, would ask me, Ben, what did you do? Or how did you intervene into that? I said, I don't know. So the issue of crisscrossing.
Yes.
Well, I don't mean that the bishop did not do right, but the right channels of persons, so that there will be no misunderstanding or maybe misgivings of intervention, something like that. So
Yes.
I just want to be clarified about that.
Yes, I think if we are clear with our roles and functions, and the bishop, also knows that, I think this problem will be avoided. No? So the notes have clear guidelines in terms of what are your roles. Okay? Yeah, they are actually in the notes. It's not projected in the LCD here, but it's in the notes. No, so if you check it, it's under the they are under the notes. Now, what? Wala. Senior moment. Sige na lang. Maybe later. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next question. The Archbishop Valles.
Okay.
Simple lang, Father. No, you mentioned about that document, the guidelines, and then I missed your lines like the CBCP. You wish something, but it's not.
Yes.
What did you please, so that we can pick it up with Bishop
Yes.
Ben? What is?
Well, during my time when I was with
yes.
the Commission Clergy, we already have plans and moves to how to educate all priests working in the Philippines to be educated about
This one. This one.
Yeah.
Okay. And that
there is
plan.
a seminar. And then they have to get a test, and then they have to be certified that they have been educated into this. And every bishop will ask all his priests to comply with that.
Or go through
that
formal.
Unfortunately,
It did not,
did not pick up in the CBCP.
Now I get what you are saying. So okay. Okay,
Because
that's-
every bishop daw is
Yeah.
autonomous.
Yes, that's true. But that's a very important point to consider. No? So we can, Bishop Ben, we can please help me remember. I have seen your moments too on this one. So we can. I think that's a very laudable, very sensible plan, because that very important document, which is now, as you said, a protocol, is a very important instrument for us and for the priests. So that's one. Second, just seeking your comment. When I heard that thing on minors and vulnerable adults,
Yes.
in the first days, I thought that it's not only mentally handicapped as you placed there, but I really thought that it was about also vulnerable adults like young
Elderly.
girls, your scholars, you're very powerful there, or workers, especially if they are poor and not so educated, they're very much vulnerable. I thought that was the meaning, but correct me, but now it is not so. It's back to yung kulang, yung mentally handicapped. So that's my thing. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I will ask Monsignor Nonoy, who is also part, I think Monsignor Nonoy attended the training, no? Can you comment on that, Monsignor Nonoy?
The term we are now using is safeguarding of minors. And when we talk of minors, we're talking about the canonical definition of the minors, not just those under the age of 18, but also those who doesn't have the ability and the capacity to decide for themselves, like an adult, like the deaf, like those who are delayed in their
Mentally
cognitive
retarded.
development, retarded, and all of those other disabled population. But at the same time, that can also be understood in the context of differential power. And I think that's what Archbishop Muloy is trying to tell us about. That in that context, that's why the safeguarding of minors doesn't only talk about trying to prevent, but more of making our church a safer place for all people, and especially those who are in the least category of power.
So it means vulnerable adults would not only be the ones we traditionally like mentally handicapped. That's one. That's to me that's
Yes.
very clear.
Yes.
But also in the area of the differential. So
Power
like
differential.
your scholars.
Yes.
So even if they are 20, but really you are powerful to them, or simple women, adults working in the church, financially you are powerful. That includes that. Okay, because it seems that I got the impression that it's not so. There's only mentally handicapped people. So, meaning they're all like minors when they are powerless in front of the priest. So I think we need more education on this.
Yes.
I myself have the experience that I thought that is so, but no more, it's only mentally retarded. But I'm happy to hear your explanation.
Okay, any more question from the group? Sige, the father at the back, kindly give the microphone.
Good morning, Father. Father Ruel from the Diocese of Bacolod. When you asked if we have a crisis management team, I did not raise my hand. But I remember, we have our Bishop Buson, but it's just more than a year. And as far as I know, there is no crisis management team being organized yet.
Yes.
But I remember during the time of Bishop Navarra, when there's a certain crisis, he would organize a team that would address a particular crisis.
Yes.
Is it possible, or is it really advisable to have a permanent crisis management team, or just for a case-to-case basis?
Yes. Remember that there are some crises that happens very quick. Crisis situations where it's not only quick, but they come from different directions. My media exposure, my legal issues, tapos my safety issues on the part of the victim or of the even of the priest himself. Kaya at least from our experience, we're saying na it's always wise to have it in place so that you can just simply activate it anytime. When you're talking about permanence, well, are the people who are there permanent? Well, you can change it in time, no? But I think it's wise that there is always a structure that we that we can reactivate whenever there is crisis situation. Okay?
Okay, the father at my left side, kindly give the microphone.
Father Efren Bungay of Tagbilaran. I'm just newly appointed Vicar for the Clergy of Tagbilaran. Father Noel, one of the prime concern at the moment in our diocese is the ongoing formation program for the clergy,
Yes.
especially in the coming of the Ratio Fundamentalis.
Yes.
My concern is that how can we determine what kind of program are we going to give, or can you share some processes or practices to come up with an ongoing formation program in a particular diocese?
Okay. In the past, we seem to have two ways of doing it and starting it. The first one is, of course, let's say if you can sit down with your team and do some brainstorming. and then you come up with programs. Okay? It's a quick process. The drawback, however, of that process is since you were the one who made it and almost imposed it on the priests, they might not accept it. There's another process which is more process-oriented, and it's slower and longer. That you do consultations. What do you need? Tell us. What are your struggles? Either through interviews or surveys. And then you sit down together and study these concerns. And then respond by what? By proposing some directions or programs. Okay? In the first day, we have seen a number of centers and institutes that are actually giving ongoing formation programs. So we have programs already. It's just a matter of, yes, knowing your needs, your unique needs, and then referring them to proper programs. Okay? Thank you. I think we can...
Sige, one last question.
And then we take a break po.
Then we will take a break.
Yes.
Sige, Father... This one.
Good morning, Father and Father Orven, a Passionist. There are two things that I would like to ask. One is about internal forum. If a minor will divulge it during confession, but is afraid to tell it outside confession, what is the responsibility of the priest hearing this confession? Am I allowed to, especially if you know the priest?
Okay.
It's minor.
Okay.
And the second is the relationship within the religious and the diocesan. Because in the religious institution, we have also process. Do we need to inform the bishop if it's our religious who committed the crime? Yes.
Okay. I hope I would be able to remember all your concerns. First one is confession. No? If you hear someone is a penitent confessing that that he was abused by the priest and the abuse continues. Okay, what we know from theology is that the zeal of confession is absolute, right? And therefore, we are bound by that zeal of confession, unless that has changed. But what we know is that that is still absolute. Okay, but there are some pastoral skills that I think you can do, like empower the penitent to reveal it to proper authority. Okay, that's one thing I think that you can do. But if it's in the context of confession, we always respect the absolute zeal of confession. Now, if it happens outside confession, like spiritual direction or counseling or consultation, that's a different story. Okay? Because the confidentiality is absolute. In fact, in these helping relationships, there are limits of confidentiality. And one of the limits of confidentiality are cases of sexual abuse of minors. Now, in the Philippines, correct me if I'm wrong, in the Philippines, we still don't have a law that would require us to report to the civil authorities. Okay? Unlike, for example, in other countries like the US, you have to report it within 24 hours. Otherwise, you will be held accountable. In the Philippines, we have not yet reached that. Now, even if we are not required by the civil law, we are obliged ethically to do something. Like what? Again, if this is not in the context of confession, then empower the person to reveal it to proper authority. If the person is not able to do that because of fear or for whatever reason, ask the permission of that person if you yourself can reveal it. And if he gives you the permission, you can do that. Now, if it's regarding reporting it to proper authority in the church, then I think you have the moral obligation to report it yourself. The papal nuncio could comment on this, but you have to report it to the bishop. If you are a religious working in the diocese, you have the duty to tell it to the bishop. To the bishop. The bishop of the place where you are. Yeah, yes.
The victim is from the other diocese.
Okay, that's already a canonical jurisdiction. So I will ask the assistance of canon lawyers regarding that. Okay?
So any canon lawyer to respond to that concern?
Let's say the victim is in the other diocese. You are here in this diocese. Let's say, for example, you are in counseling, not in confession. Okay, you are in counseling or you are doing consultation, and this person is actually, let's say, from Zamboanga, but he conferred with you that he was abused by the priest somewhere in Zamboanga, but he confessed it here. What would you do?
In cases where crimes were committed in another, the original diocese, and then he or she went to another diocese for counseling, the matter would be addressed technically in his or her own diocese. So it's better to refer the case to that diocese, to the proper bishop. So, is that what you're,
Who does that, Father? Who will do that?
Well, in this, if the person came to the priest and the priest would like to assist the person, the priest may, like a group like this, or connect with the diocese of origin. So halimbawa, for the Episcopal Vicars, if we have such a network and that is already known to them, that can be addressed there. Or simply connect with the chancery, and that could be addressed there.
Okay.
And that, if there are other canonists, maybe they can also give their own opinions.
Thank you. I think that's enough.
That's a
That's
simple
excellent,
thing.
Father. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so for those who want to ask questions, please reserve them during our facilitated conversations, because Father Noel will have also his merienda break. Then at 11, we will start our facilitated conversations. Thank you. Lend me your ears. There is an announcement here from the Secretariat. Sabi dito, sa lahat ng nag-order ng polo shirt na hindi pa nakabayad, please settle your payment at the Secretariat desk as soon as possible. Thank you. And then another one, lost cell phone of Dr. Padilla. May kulay green sa likod at may phone ang brand. Kung sino pong nakakita, kindly return it to her. Thank you.